let's move forward with Jazz. I will also keep noting on the chat if there are questions that come, but let me stop sharing and hopefully Jazz will take over. So Jazz is one of the ones who I see this a lot with people though, but it's like you start with Claude Code and you're like, what is this? How does this work? Like, don't really know what to do with it. And then when you get the hang of it, it's actually really hard to stop. So yeah, Jazz is a really good example of that. She definitely did go rogue. Feel free to share your screen and show us exactly what you did.
Addicted. Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's helpful to share. So I run an agency. So I have spent my whole career kind of relying on developers, and it's been just so nice to not have to do that anymore and to be like, oh wait, I'm just gonna go build all of this stuff by myself for less money, less time, all the things. But yeah, so I do you want me to just dive into what I built? Or okay, yeah, perfect. Cool. So I started building, so kind of similar to what Marin showed. I have my internal tool, and then I also started building some external things. And I think a lot of us started that way. So I started by building this dashboard, which I'm happy to share with everyone. Um, so every day it kind of gives me like an update of what's going on. And so it gives me a reading. And so the reading is like super interesting because it's like half based on my calendar and then half based on like my human design and like astrology and things like that. So this was like really fun to build together. So you can see it's like calling out specific things on my calendar, like discovery call later. But then it's also tying in astrology and things like that. It gives me a journal prompt, which I think is also a lot of fun. Again, I kind of like prompted it to be like, base this off of like what's going on in my business, what you see on my calendar, like all the things. And then it has my calendar and my tasks. And then I also have and I blurred it out here, but it tracks my revenue, which I haven't updated for May, but I need to do, and kind of like what's going on with my different clients. And you can see like it kind of tags like who's active, when they're ending, so I can pay attention to what's going on with that. And then I have a sales tab as well to kind of like pay attention to what's in the pipeline, what I'm trying to get into the revenue tab. And then my favorite here is my health tab. This has not been updated because admittedly I have been slacking on using it because I've been building all the other things that I'm about to show you, but I'm gonna show you it anyway because I think it's really cool. So this is one of those I was mentioning it in the chat to somebody who asked a question, but I feel like whenever you start building with Claude Code, like you have to really shift your mindset of like, what are the things in my world that are just like not working? Because you can build literally anything. And that's like a hard thing to wrap, at least for me, it was a hard thing to wrap my mind around because I was like, I have all these tools that I already use. So I had this period tracking app that I already used, and I had like a workout tracking app that I already used, but they were both like not working for me because I sync my workouts to my cycle, which I think a lot of us do. And so in my workout app, like on whenever I was in phases where I wanted to do less activity, was kind of marking me as like I didn't hit my goals, right? Because I didn't do three high intensity workouts that week. And I was like, this is a bummer. Like I know in my head that it's not real, but I like want it to show what I want. So I ended up building out this, and it shows like my different phases. And then I do Orange Theory. That's what OTF is. So, how many times a week do I want to do my high intensity workout? How many times a week do I want to do my low intensity workout? And then it actually syncs to my calendar. So it shows what I have scheduled and then what I have actually got, what I've actually done and gone to, because I'm a big fan of scheduling all the things, then being like, wait, I'm too busy. We're moving them around. And then it will show me like if I hit my goals, 3 out of 3, 2 out of 2, like resting this week. So this is like really fun and something that I built in the beginning. So yeah, like I said, early on I was building like a lot of kind of internal things. And then I decided that I wanted to start building external. So I have always wanted to launch a course. I work with a lot of larger companies. So I support with lead generation, marketing, sales support. And I have always wanted to work with smaller businesses, but just like haven't been able to find a way to make that sustainable for my business model. And so with Claude Code, I am now launching this course, which I'm super excited about. So this whole page, which is kind of like my sales page, my promo page, was built with Claude Code. So I'm happy to share share this link in the chat, but it kind of just explains it's going to be a 4 week cohort. And then there's this button to join the waitlist. So you can, there's a form and this connects to HubSpot. I use HubSpot, but it certainly doesn't have to. This could run fully on its own. Um, so yeah, there's kind of like this Q&A with the accordions and yeah, this is my sales page. And then I'm also building like the actual course platform. So this is gated, meaning that people have to log in to see it, which was something that I was never able to build in my existing website provider. So I was super excited to be able to build kind of like a login area here. And it has the 4 weeks. So I'll kind of walk super quickly through week one. It has this area to kind of like read whatever you need to learn for the course. It creates like graphics, all kinds of things. So this module of the course is all about kind of figuring out your numbers. So if you have a revenue goal in mind, learning how many clients do I need, etc. And then my favorite part here is that I built this like little AI tool to do your homework with you. Because I think so many of us, we sign on to these courses and then we never actually do them because it's not fun to just like sit and do your homework. And because so many of us are using ChatGPT or like Claude Chat, like these LLMs, I really wanted it to mimic that. So it kind of just walks the user through, welcome to week one of your homework. I'm gonna go super fast here so we have time for everybody else. But what's your annual revenue? So you can say whatever your revenue is. We'll say 200, and then it asks you, great, what's your goal? So we'll say, okay, I want to be at 250. And it walks you kind of through this whole process that's outlined up here. So, what do you sell? We'll say I sell a $1,000 course. I'm just kind of making all of this up. And then on sales calls, what percentage do you close? And you can kind of say to it also, you can say, like, I have no idea. And it will kind of like walk you through. And so once you're done with that, it gives you all of your numbers. So then everybody who enrolls in this course will kind of have these numbers. Let's just say. So then they'll be able to kind of use this and then they'll know, okay, here are my goals. If I want to hit this revenue, here we go. Yeah, so it spits out all of your numbers for you. So if this is your revenue goal, here's how many sales calls you need. Here's how many signups. This is kind of a term that I use whenever I'm teaching. So yeah, that all exists. So that's what I built.
Amazing. 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 I wanted to ask something. So in
Yeah.
terms of like, if you think about building the course,
Mhm.
what did you actually spend your time on? Because I know that the
Yeah.
build itself wasn't like the main part. Like,
No.
how was the process of building the course? Because you already had spent so much time, like creating your internal structure, the system knew your business, like it knew your framework, all of that. Like, what did it actually look like, and what was the timeline of building the course?
Yeah, that is a great question. So, because I built all of my internal systems first, to your point, it already kind of knew my business and I had already kind of worked with it. I uploaded a lot of my call transcripts and I kind of taught the system all about here's what I do, here's how I do consulting with my clients. So the system already had a pretty good lens of like my process and methodology and what I teach. And so I was able to really focus on like what I like to do, which is the teaching and strategy. And Claude just built everything else for me. Like I didn't have to say, here's exactly how I want this page to look, or here's the copy that I want you to put on this page. Like all of that was handled for me. And of course, I edited it. I would be like, put up a first draft. Okay, here's what I like, here's what I don't like. But the first draft is amazing. Like there was not a lot of editing that needed to happen, which was nice because I really get to focus more on like the user experience piece of this is how I want people to go through my course, and these are the things that I want them to learn, and I want them to do their homework and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yes, that's amazing. Any other questions for Jazz? Feel free to also unmute if something comes to mind. There's a question that I think a lot of people have, which is, does it need to be hosted on another platform like Kajabi? No, it literally lives in the same place as your website when you set it up. So, for example, like every single part of everything that we share in terms of the course and the things that you also take, like if you want to check out the structure on the four languages free courses, that is all hosted in the same place as my website. All of the logins, like all of the login walls, the tracking, the user tracking, like progress bars, the AI features, all of that lives there. You don't pay Kajabi. You don't need another course platform. So especially I think like when it comes to cost, just being able to cut Kajabi is gonna save you $1,000 at least a year. So that's one of the like I would say greatest saves in terms of hosting it yourself. Also, Jazz, like just as the last question, now that you've been kind of like working with this and working with the CRM side of things, because I know that you're a genius in that side, is there something that like you're really excited to get to and build when it comes to like relationships and like all of that management side that you've obviously spent a long time doing that with like the highest tier HubSpot products as well?
Yeah, I think my goal, so with this course platform, I kind of gave everybody a preview of, it spits out your numbers for you. I think my long-term goal would be for that to almost turn into like a mini CRM, because the people who I want to take my course are smaller business owners, and HubSpot is not necessarily going to make sense for them. A, from a cost perspective, and B, just because it's so robust, like it's kind of too much. And so I would love to get to a place where, they can start tracking their revenue and sales conversations and everything right in that tool. That's a lot of what I'm doing inside of my dashboard that I built. And so, yeah, I would love to kind of build out that piece of it as well. But yeah, to answer, I know there are questions in the chat about hosting. The easiest way to think about it is it's almost going like backwards in time to like the 90s. Like it's all just HTML coded, which I didn't understand. It took me a while to like understand that because I was not coding at that time. But it's like the purest form. It's like so basic in terms of code, which is why you can do anything. Like there are no limitations. So in a lot of those platforms like Kajabi or whatever, like you're limited to their modules and the way they want you to set things up, but you can kind of build in whatever way that you want because it's pure code. It's not like a template.
Yeah, exactly. And you have a template. So there's a reason that Maren's
Yes.
and Jax's and Chantal's is gonna have like similarities is because they have the kind of like back end template from the four languages like root system. So you build on top of that, but you can adjust it in any way you want. Any way you want. The only reason that it makes it easier with the template is that you don't need to like start from scratch with the plumbing, like this is where the tabs live, or this is how a navigation is built. You don't need to think about any of that. Like that lives in the template. But whatever you want to do with that template, however you want it to look like, whatever kind of functionalities you want it to have, that's up to you. But yeah, you can do anything you want with that. And you will see that next with Chantal. But yeah, you will get a template in part two for building your own course that has all the logins. There are a lot of things that you don't really think about with Kajabi, and you obviously pay for not having to think about like who has access to what, that kind of stuff. But with the templates, you will be able to build it yourself. And I think Jazz, maybe you can plus one on this one. Like it's really not that hard once you get started. It's really
No,
not that complex.
yeah, I was blown away at how easy it is. Like I said, like it really allows you to spend your time doing the things only humans can do, which is like building the user experience and translating your knowledge into the course. Like you're not spending time on like the nitty-gritty of like building.
Yeah. Amazing. Cool. Thank you so much, Jazz. And like someone asked, all of these links and details of every single one who's presenting today is going to be shared in the email and in the recording. So you will get access to everything. No worries.